and I was never briefed that she was a high-risk misper, which I would normally, the information I would be given straight away.
You've telegraphed my next question, Peter. Given that you were clearly very intimately involved in the search, working with the police, would you have expected to have been told that this was the police deemed a high-risk missing person due to a number of specific vulnerabilities?
Yes, I have very high security clearances in place, and I work on complex murder investigations. And normally, the police would take me to one side, brief me, and this is high risk. It mustn't go out to the press, but we need to let you know what we're dealing with here. And I never heard nothing.
And what would that mean? What does that translate that for us?
Yeah, well, a high risk missing person is someone that may come to immediate harm. So that would have maybe changed my search strategy, meaning that Nicola could have walked off herself. She may not have been in a clear state of mind. She could have walked in along the river. She could have been suicidal. It could be many things, Tom. And that would immediately make me potentially cover different areas as well, not just the river around there, but, looking into all sorts of culverts and also look at the trackways in, the trackways out.
Because this bit of information means what to you, Peter? That there might be parts of the river that should have been searched earlier that weren't?
I think, Ray, maybe. I think when you deal with a high risk, a police search advisor is immediately tasked, which they were, and a senior investigating officer was tasked. But again, it's a wide area search. She could have just wandered off in a state. I've spoken to the family in depth, and the family confirmed to me that there was no underlying issues with Nicola. This is from the sister and from Emma and from Paul. They were talking about a spa day the night before, messaging each other, and there was not any inkling that there was anything wrong at that stage.
I just don't see how releasing that piece of information is going to help find her.
No.
And if they were to find her and she is alive, the shame that she's going to feel with that, I mean, I can't really talk about the menopause, but certainly if it's a substance issue, I just think that brings huge amounts of shame into someone's life that you just don't need to share, and she certainly wouldn't want shared. And I can't imagine her husband wants shared, and a family wants shared. I just think it's deplorable.
I'm absolutely, and I couldn't have put it, you actually summed it up perfectly, and I'm sorry, obviously you've had issues helping someone who's had problems with alcohol as well, but I'm totally with you. I find it utterly baffling. These idiots at Lancashire Police now have effectively said that this poor missing woman was a menopausal nigh-on alcoholic. How does that help their investigation? The whole bloody lot of them should hang their heads in shame and face in very, very thorough outside force investigation. Mr. Faulding, am I right in saying that you, like the rest of the country, learnt of this woman's reported issues with the menopause and alcohol from the press conference yesterday? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Yes, absolutely. I was shocked when I heard this, because that would have been useful if we'd been given that information in the first place.
What's your view of the investigation now, then, Mr. Faulding?
Well, the investigation, I don't want to beat the police up. As me, from all the calls I'm getting, it's the communications pitch. The police are working hard in the background. The search teams are working hard. It's just the way it's been communicated, and it's upsetting everybody. People beating the police up. People now, the family are distraught, and that information should not have been released at all.
How might this have altered how you and your team conducted your work?
Right, well, we were briefed by the police search advisor, so we were working under them, and we were told categorically that she had more than likely just slipped into the river at the point where we were searching. It was only 2 feet of deep water onto rocks. I said from the day one, this is a mystery because we work on so many of these, and she's not in that part of the river at all. We would have changed the search strategy. She just could have wandered off. We'd been in a dazed state of mind, Nick. She could have been swam over the weir, because when people try and drown themselves, they float for a while, which means she could have drifted down and gone over the weir and then disappeared out to sea.
When we last spoke, you were pretty convinced that she had not gone into the water. Would you want to revisit that decision? Indeed, would you want to revisit the area?
I would like to revisit the area, but if she had gone over the weir because she'd gone in at a different location or swam and floated down, then yeah, absolutely. I'm absolutely certain she is not in the river around by the bench or where the police divers searched as well and upriver. If she has gone, she's gone miles downstream by now.
What would you and the team seek to do, if you were to return?
Well, I personally think a lot of land searching needs to be done. It needs a new search strategy here, because the chance to find her in the river now is pretty remote. If I'm honest, Nick, it's so long now. We went up there after 10 days. Normally we locate people extremely quickly. So I think a lot of questions need to be asked here of the way that maybe this has been done, but it needs a careful plan. People need to regroup. Stop beating people up. They need to get together and get some positive out of this to help this poor family.
Peter, are you still in touch with Paul, her partner, and the family?
Nick, I spoke to Paul 2 days ago. I haven't been able to get hold of him since. I think the man's absolutely in pieces. The whole family are in pieces. I mean, they were told to put all their comms through. They were not told to avoid the media. They were told to speak through. If they wanted to communicate, they would go through the police. And I can see that reason why now, because Paul never told me about Nicola's potential problems, or the family didn't. So I think they were being probably told to not mention that, but it would have been useful if we had known.
Do you suppose they were made prior aware to the police announcing it yesterday?
Honestly, I don't know. Probably not. I think this was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction yesterday afternoon, and I think that's what's caused this outcry. I mean, it should have just been kept totally private. The public, no need to know this information. We should have just got told it's a high-risk misper. That's what we get all the time, and you just deal with it. We don't tell the media, obviously, for obvious reasons.
And lastly, Peter, do you think there's a possibility now people will look on her disappearance in a different fashion, possibly even less sympathetically, if, as is reported, she had issues with alcohol?
Well, I mean, there's lots of people with alcohol problems, and that's the life these days, I think. But people will be sympathetic to the family, and there's many people suffering all these sorts of issues. I think we just need to keep an open mind here, and not stop beating people up, but we just need to get on and find Nicola, really, Nick.